The alarm screamed through every corridor of the horizon's edge. Jiho's hands moved quickly across the engine control panel, his eyes scanning the red warnings that filled the screen. The ship shook violently as another blast hit the shields. "Engineering report!" Captain Morris's voice crackled through the speakers. "Shields at 40%, Jiho shouted back, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I'm rerouting power from non-essential systems, but we can't take many more hits like that." Through the small window of the engine room, Jiho could see the enemy ships. They were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, sleek vessels with sharp angles. Colored deep purple and black circled the human exploration ship like predators surrounding wounded prey. The horizon's edge had been on a simple mapping mission near the Kepler 442 system. Now they were fighting for their lives. The ship lurched again. Jiho grabbed the support rail to keep from falling. Sparks flew from a damaged panel across the room. This wasn't going well. The aliens had appeared without warning, cutting off their escape route and disabling their faster-than-light drive with the first attack. "They're boarding us." The captain's voice came through again, now strained with urgency. "All hands prepare to repel boarders. Engineering, seal your section." Jiho's finger hovered over the lockdown button, but he hesitated. Sealing the section would trap him inside, but it might also trap the aliens out. He pressed it. Heavy doors slammed shut at both entrances to the engineering deck. He was alone now. He moved to the weapons locker, pulling out a standard-issue plasma pistol. Jiho had trained with it during basic crew certification, but he'd never fired it at a living thing. He hoped he wouldn't have to start now. Minutes passed like hours. Jiho could hear the sounds of fighting elsewhere in the ship through the walls. Shouts, weapon fire, and then screams. His heart pounded in his chest. The plasma pistol felt heavy in his hands, then he heard it, a strange hissing sound at the sealed door. Jiho backed away, raising his weapon. The metal began to glow orange, then white. They were cutting through. Of course they were. His lockdown would only buy him minutes at best. Think, Jiho told himself. He was an engineer, not a soldier. What did he have in here that could help? His eyes swept across the engine room. Power cores, coolant systems, electromagnetic field generators. An idea struck him. It was dangerous and probably stupid, but it might work. Jiho ran to the main power distribution node. His fingers flew across the controls, overriding safety protocols and rerouting massive amounts of energy. The ship's electromagnetic field generators were designed to protect against radiation and small debris. But if he reversed the polarity and amplified the output, the door exploded inward. 3 figures entered through the smoke and molten metal. They were tall, easily 7 feet, with sleek bodies covered in short fur that ranged from deep purple to silver. They moved like cats, graceful and deadly. Each carried weapons that hummed with energy. Their faces were angular and fierce, with large amber eyes that glowed in the dim emergency lighting. The lead alien said something in a language that sounded like growls and musical notes combined. When Jiho didn't respond, it raised its weapon. Jiho slammed his hand down on the final control. The electromagnetic pulse erupted from the generators like an invisible wave. The aliens' weapons died instantly, their glow fading to black. The lights in the engine room flickered and went out. Emergency backup lights kicked in, bathing everything in red. The aliens looked at their dead weapons in surprise. That gave Jiho the seconds he needed. He dove behind a support pillar as one of them threw its useless weapon aside and charged at him with claws extended. But the pulse had done more than disable weapons. Jiho heard confused shouts from other parts of the ship. The alien communication systems were down too, maybe even some of their armor and equipment. The alien reached for him, but Jiho rolled away, coming up near a coolant control valve. He yanked it open. Freezing liquid nitrogen sprayed out, filling the area with white vapor. The alien hissed and jumped back, giving Jiho time to run. He made it 3 steps before something hit him from behind. Jiho crashed to the floor, the wind knocked from his lungs. A heavy weight pinned him down. Claws pressed against his back, not quite breaking the skin but making their threat clear. "Clever," a female voice said in perfect, if accented English. "But not clever enough, human." Jiho turned his head as much as he could. A 4th alien stood over him, one who hadn't entered with the first group. This one was different. Her fur was a striking shade of violet with silver markings along her arms and face. She wore armor that looked more decorated than the others, marked with symbols that might have been rank insignia. Her amber eyes studied him with intense curiosity. "You disabled half my boarding party with that pulse," she continued, kneeling beside him. One of her clawed hands gripped his shoulder and turned him over roughly. What are you? You look so fragile, weak. Yet you fight with your mind instead of your body. Engineer, Jiho managed to say, still struggling to breathe. Just an engineer, She tilted her head and her expression changed to something that might have been amusement. Your just engineering has cost me 12 warriors and delayed this raid by precious minutes. I think you are more than just anything human. She stood, pulling Jiho to his feet with surprising gentleness given her earlier aggression. The other aliens who had recovered from the pulse were gathering now, at least 20 of them filling the engine room. They looked at Jiho with expressions ranging from anger to curiosity. I am Commander Velrisa of the Thalnari Empire, the violet-furred alien said, and you are now my prisoner. What is your name? Jiho, he said quietly, seeing no point in refusing. My name is Jiho. Jiho? She repeated, as if testing how it felt to say. Come, your ship is ours now. Your crew will be processed. But you, I think I will keep you close. I want to understand how such a weak species produces such dangerous minds. She turned and gave orders in her own language. 2 guards moved to flank Jiho, but they didn't bind his hands. Velrisa led the way out of the engine room and Jiho had no choice but to follow. As they walked through the corridors of his captured ship, Jiho saw other human crew members being rounded up. Some were injured. All looked defeated. His electromagnetic pulse had helped, but it hadn't been enough to win. Just enough to make him interesting to their enemy. He wondered if that was a good thing or a very bad thing. Only time would tell. The Thalnari flagship was massive. Jiho had seen it through the viewports as their small transport shuttle approached. It dwarfed the horizon's edge like a whale next to a fish. The ship's hull was covered in decorative patterns that glowed with soft purple light, and tall spires rose from its surface like the towers of some alien cathedral. Inside, the corridors were wide and tall, built for beings larger than humans. Jiho felt small walking between his guards, following Commander Velrisa through the ship. Other Thalnari passed them in the hallways, and each time they stared at Jiho with open curiosity. Some made sounds that might have been comments or questions. Velrisa ignored them all, her stride confident and purposeful. They stopped at a door marked with symbols Jiho couldn't read. It slid open at Velrisa's touch, revealing a large room that appeared to be personal quarters. The space was decorated in shades of deep purple and silver, with furniture that looked both elegant and functional. A large window showed the stars outside, and the captured human ship in the distance, already being pulled by tractor beams toward a larger carrier vessel. This is where you will stay, Velrisa said, gesturing for Jiho to enter. You will not be harmed as long as you cooperate. Food will be brought. The facilities are through that door. She pointed to a side room. Everything you need. Am I a prisoner or a guest? Jiho asked, finding his voice. Because this seems too nice for a cell. You are. Velrisa paused as if searching for the right word. You are claimed. There is a difference. Claimed? What does that mean? Before Velrisa could answer, the door opened again. 3 female Thalnari entered without asking permission. They were tall and athletic like Velrisa, but their fur colors ranged from silver white to deep blue. They looked at Jiho with expressions that made him uncomfortable, their eyes scanning him up and down. Commander Velrisa, one of them said in English, her voice smooth and confident. This is the human who disabled half the boarding party? He looked so small. Small but clever, another added, stepping closer to Jiho. She reached out as if to touch his face. I have never seen a human before. They are quite unusual. Soft skin instead of fur, strange. Jiho stepped back, but the Thalnari followed. I would like to study him, she continued. Commander, if you are finished with him, perhaps I could... No. Velrisa's voice cut through the air like a blade. The single word carried such authority that all 3 visitors froze. He is mine. I claimed him first. That is final. The 3 Thalnari women exchanged glances. One of them laughed, but it didn't sound friendly. Yours? Commander, you have not performed any claiming ritual. You have simply brought back a prisoner. By ship law, any warrior who desires him may... Velrisa moved so fast that Jiho barely saw it. One moment she was across the room. The next she was directly in front of him, her body between him and the other females. Her posture was aggressive, protective, and possessive all at once. Leave, she said quietly, but there was danger in her tone. Now. The three females hesitated, then slowly backed toward the door. As you command, the silver-furred one said, but her eyes stayed on Jiho. But Commander, if you truly want to claim him, you know what you must do. Otherwise, others will challenge. He is too interesting to ignore. They left, and the door sealed behind them. Velrisa stood still for a long moment, her back to Jiho. He could see tension in her shoulders, see her hands flexing as if she wanted to hit something. What was that about? Jiho asked carefully. What did she mean about claiming and rituals? Velrisa turned to face him. Her amber eyes met his, and he saw conflict there. Among my people, when a female finds a mate that she desires, she claims them. It is our way. The female marks the male with her scent, and all other females must respect that mark. It prevents conflicts, prevents fighting over the same mate. But I'm not Thalnari, Jiho said. I'm human. I don't even know how your scent thing works. It does not matter. You are aboard a Thalnari ship, subject to Thalnari customs. She stepped closer, and Jiho resisted the urge to back away. Those females you just saw? They are warriors, hunters. They desire you because you showed cunning and intelligence. To them, those are attractive qualities in a potential mate. If I do not mark you, they will compete for you. There will be challenges, fights, possibly deaths. It will disrupt my command, so mark me to avoid politics? Jiho shook his head. That's not a good reason. I'm a person, not a prize to claim. Velrisa's expression shifted to confusion. You would rather be fought over? You prefer conflict? I prefer to make my own choices, Jiho said firmly. In human culture, we don't just claim each other. Both people have to agree. It's called consent. You can't just decide someone belongs to you. Consent, Velrisa repeated slowly, testing the word. This is a human custom. It's a human right. A basic one. They stood in silence for several seconds. Jiho could see Velrisa processing this information, her alien mind working through a concept that was clearly foreign to her. Outside the window, ships moved through the darkness of space. But inside this room, two beings from different worlds tried to understand each other. If I do not mark you, Velrisa finally said, another female will. They will not ask for your consent. They will simply take you, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. You are alone here, Jiho. You have no ship, no weapons, no allies. I am offering you protection by making me your property, by making you mine, yes. She moved closer, and Jiho could smell something like cinnamon and steel coming from her fur. But perhaps it does not have to be only that. You are right. You are not Thalnari. You are something new. Maybe our customs can adapt. But first, survival. I must mark you now, before another female decides to challenge my claim. Then later we can discuss this consent of yours. Jiho wanted to argue more, but he could see the logic in her words even if he hated it. He was trapped on an alien ship, surrounded by a species he didn't understand. Velrisa had at least shown some willingness to listen to him. The others had looked at him like an object. Fine, he said quietly, but this doesn't mean I belong to you. It's temporary. Until we figure something else out. Velrisa nodded. Temporary. I understand. She stepped very close now, so close that Jiho could feel the heat radiating from her body. She was much taller than him, and she had to lean down to reach his level. She raised her wrist to her own neck first, rubbing it there for a moment, then brought it to Jiho's neck. The sensation was strange. Her fur was softer than he expected and warm. She rubbed her wrist along the side of his neck, then across his shoulders, her movements deliberate and thorough. Jiho stood still, feeling awkward and exposed. The scent grew stronger, that cinnamon steel smell now clinging to his skin. There, Velrisa said, stepping back. It is done. Every female on this ship will now know you are claimed. They will not approach you. Just like that, just like that. She studied him with those amber eyes. You are mine now, Jiho. Whether you accept it or not, that is how my people will see you. But I will remember what you said about consent. I will think about it. Before Jiho could respond, the door chimed. Velrisa called out permission to enter, and a younger Thalnari female came in carrying a tray of food. She set it on a table, glanced at Jiho, then quickly looked away when she caught the scent on him. Her ears flattened against her head in what might have been submission or respect, and she left quickly without speaking. You see, Velrisa said. The mark works. You are safe now. Rest. Eat. Tomorrow we will talk more. She left him alone in the comfortable prison, and Jiho sank into one of the alien chairs. His mind raced with everything that had happened. Captured, claimed, marked like territory. His crew scattered and imprisoned. His ship taken. And strangest of all, a part of him understood why Velrisa had done it. She wasn't trying to be cruel. She was protecting him in the only way her culture knew how. That didn't make it right, but it did make it complicated. Jiho touched his neck where her scent lingered and wondered what came next. 3 weeks had passed since Jiho was marked. 3 weeks of living in comfortable quarters on an alien warship, learning the Thalnari language through their advanced computer systems, and slowly earning limited freedom to move through certain sections of the flagship. Velrisa visited him daily, sometimes multiple times. Their conversations had evolved from tense standoffs to something more interesting. She asked him about human culture, about Earth, about why humans thought the way they did. He asked her about the Thalnari Empire, their history, their enemies. It was during one of these conversations that he learned about the Krillians. They are winning the war, Velrisa admitted, showing him a star map on her personal display. Red markers indicated Krillian territory, slowly spreading like a disease across what had been Thalnari space. Every battle, they adapt to our tactics. Every strategy we develop, they counter within weeks. We are losing ground, losing ships, losing warriors. What do they want? Jiho asked, studying the map. Resources, territory, dominance. Velrisa's ears flattened against her head, a sign of frustration he had learned to recognize. They are a cold species. Logical. They do not understand honor or glory, only efficiency and expansion. Jiho was about to respond when alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Velrisa's communicator came alive with urgent voices speaking rapid Thalnari. Her expression changed instantly from casual to combat-ready. Krillian dreadnought, she said, already moving toward the door. A big one. All warriors to battle stations. What about me? She paused at the doorway. Stay here. You will be safe in my quarters. The shields will— I could help, Jiho interrupted. I'm an engineer. Let me see your command center. Maybe I can— No, you are not military. You are claimed but untrained. You would be in danger. Commander! A voice came through her communicator, urgent and loud. We need you on the bridge now. Velrisa growled in frustration, clearly torn. Then she made a decision. Come, but stay close to me. Touch nothing. If I tell you to hide, you hide. Understood? Understood. They ran through the corridors together, Velrisa moving with athletic grace while Jiho struggled to keep up. The command center was a large circular room with multiple levels, filled with Thalnari warriors working at various stations. A massive view screen showed the space ahead, where a ship 3 times the size of the Thalnari flagship drifted into view. The Krillian dreadnought was all angles and cold metal, covered in weapons that glowed with green energy. It looked brutal and efficient, exactly as Velrisa had described their species. Shields at maximum, Velrisa ordered, taking her position at the command platform. All weapons ready. Fighter squadrons launch. Jiho watched as the battle began. The Thalnari ships moved with coordinated precision, attacking from multiple angles. Their purple energy weapons hammered against the Krillian shields, creating brilliant flashes of light. But the dreadnought's shields held, and its return fire was devastating. 2 Thalnari cruisers exploded within the first minute. Their shields are adapting, the tactical officer reported. They are rotating frequencies to counter our weapons. Change firing patterns, Velrisa ordered. Random intervals, maximum power. But Jiho could see it wasn't working. The Krillian shields adjusted almost instantly to each change. It was like watching a computer solve a puzzle in real time, perfectly and without emotion. He moved closer to one of the tactical displays, studying the data flowing across the screen. The translation software in his quarters had taught him to read basic Thalnari text, and the numbers were universal. He could see the shield harmonics, the frequency patterns, the power distributions, and he saw something. Commander, Jiho said quietly. Velrisa didn't hear him over the chaos of battle orders. Commander? He said louder. She turned, surprised he was speaking. What? They're shields. Look at the harmonics. He pointed at the display. They are adaptive, yes, but they follow a pattern. They shift to counter your weapons, but there is a delay. 0.3 seconds. Every time, Velrisa studied the screen, her eyes narrowing. What are you suggesting? Stop trying to overpower them. You can't, they will just adapt. Jiho's mind raced, the engineer in him seeing the problem clearly now. Instead, hit them out of rhythm. Fire weapons in irregular patterns. Not random exactly, but unpredictable. Arrhythmic. Make each shot different in timing and power. Their shields will not know what to adapt to. That is not how we fight, the tactical officer said dismissively. We strike with coordinated power. Unity of force. And they adapt to it every time, Jiho shot back. You said it yourself, they are logical. They expect logical attacks. So be illogical. Another cruiser exploded on the view screen. Time was running out. Velrisa looked at Jiho, then at her dying fleet, then back to Jiho. We try it, she decided. Tactical, implement the human strategy. All ships fire weapons in irregular patterns. No coordination between vessels. Each captain chooses their own timing and power levels. Now, the tactical officer looked shocked but followed orders. The commands went out across the fleet. For a moment, the organized Thalnari attack became chaos. Ships fired at random intervals with varying power, no longer working in sync, and the Krillian shields began to flicker. It is working, someone shouted. Their shields cannot maintain stability. The Thalnari fighters dove in during the fluctuations, targeting weapons and engine ports. The dreadnought tried to compensate, but its logical systems couldn't predict illogical attacks. Within minutes, critical systems began failing. Within an hour, the massive ship was crippled and limping away, jumping to hyperspace before it could be destroyed. The command center erupted in cheers. Warriors congratulated each other, celebrating their first major victory against the Krillians in months. Velrisa stood quietly at her command platform, then turned to look at Jiho. You saved us, she said simply. A human who has been aboard my ship for only 3 weeks saw what my trained warriors could not see. I just looked at it differently, Jiho replied, feeling awkward under the stares of every warrior in the room. That's what humans do. We see patterns from strange angles. That evening, Velrisa called him to a private meeting in her quarters. She seemed different, more thoughtful than usual. I have received intelligence, she said. The prison ship that carries the rest of your crew from the horizon's edge will pass through this sector in 2 days. It holds 37 humans. Jiho's heart jumped. My crew, they are alive? Most of them, yes. Some were injured, but alive. She paused, watching his reaction carefully. I am offering you a trade, Jiho. You have proven valuable today. You saved many lives. I will arrange for the prison ship to be intercepted. I will have your crew released and brought to my flagship. What do you want in return? You remain as my tactical consultant. You help us fight the Krillians. You use that clever human mind to find solutions we cannot see. She stepped closer, and you continue to accept my claim mark. For now, Jiho thought about it. He could be with his crew again, could help protect them. And maybe, just maybe, he could help end this war. I accept, he said. But my crew must be treated well. Not as prisoners. As guests. Agreed. 2 days later, a transport shuttle arrived carrying 37 confused and frightened humans. Jiho was there when they disembarked, and the reunion was emotional. His friend Hyerin, the navigation officer, hugged him hard enough to hurt. Doyen, the medic, immediately started checking him over for injuries while asking rapid-fire questions about what had happened. But they all stopped talking when Velrisa approached, tall and intimidating in her commander's armor. This is Commander Velrisa, Jiho said carefully. She is my... He struggled to find the right words. She is protecting us. We are working together now. Hyerin sniffed the air near Jiho, then her eyes went wide. Is that alien scent on you? Jiho, what happened? It is a long story, he said tiredly. A very long story. But for now we are safe, and I need your help. All of you. We have a war to win. As he led his crew to their assigned quarters, explaining everything that had occurred, Jiho caught Velrisa watching him from across the hangar. She nodded once, an acknowledgement of trust kept and bargains honored. He nodded back. Things were still complicated. He still wore her mark, still lived in her quarters, still existed in a cultural limbo between prisoner and partner. But now he had his people back. Now he had purpose. And maybe slowly he and Velrisa were becoming something more than captor and captive. Maybe they were becoming allies. Time would tell if they could become something even more than that. The Thalnari homeworld was beautiful. Jiho stood at the viewport of the shuttle as they descended through the atmosphere, watching cities of purple and silver spires rise from forests of blue vegetation. The planet was called Thalnar Prime, and it was the heart of an empire that stretched across dozens of star systems. But Jiho wasn't here as a tourist. He was here to stand trial. Nervous? Velrisa asked beside him. She wore her most formal armor, decorated with medals and symbols of her rank. Her violet fur had been groomed to perfection. Should I be? The Empress does not summon people lightly, Velrisa admitted. When she heard I had claimed an alien without Imperial approval, and that I gave him access to military strategy, she was not pleased. The shuttle landed on a platform near the Imperial Palace, a massive structure that looked like it had been carved from a single piece of purple crystal. Guards in ceremonial armor lined the entrance, their weapons held at attention. They watched Jiho with suspicion as he followed Velrisa inside. The palace interior was grand beyond anything Jiho had imagined. High ceilings covered in glowing patterns, floors that seemed to shimmer with inner light, and everywhere the symbols of Thalnari power and history. They walked for what felt like miles through corridors and chambers, finally arriving at a set of enormous doors. The Empress waits beyond, Velrisa said quietly. Remember, bow when you enter. Address her as Imperial Majesty. Do not speak unless spoken to. And Jiho, be careful. The Empress is wise, but she is also traditional. She may not understand humans the way I am beginning to. The doors opened, and they entered the throne room. Empress Thalvera sat upon a throne that seemed to float in the air. Supported by technology Jiho couldn't identify. She was larger than most Thalnari, her fur a rich gold color marked with black stripes. Her eyes were the same amber as Velrisa's, but harder, colder. She wore robes that flowed like liquid metal, and a crown of dark crystal rested on her head between her ears. Around the throne stood members of the Imperial Council, 12 Thalnari of various colors and ages, all watching Jiho with expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. Jiho bowed as instructed. Velrisa knelt, her head lowered in respect. Commander Velrisa, the Empress said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. You have brought the human before us. Yes, Imperial Majesty. This is Jiho, chief engineer of the human vessel we captured 3 months ago. 3 months, the Empress repeated. 3 months during which you have kept him aboard your flagship, claimed him as your own, and given him access to military tactics and strategies. 3 months during which you have allowed him to influence our war against the Krillians. He has helped us win battles we would have lost, Velrisa responded, her voice steady despite the clear danger in the Empress's tone. His mind works differently than ours. He sees solutions we miss. Or, a council member spoke up, an old male with silver fur. He is a spy, an infiltrator sent by the Krillians to feed us false strategies and weaken our defenses. I am not a spy, Jiho said, forgetting in his anger that he wasn't supposed to speak. I am not working with the Krillians. I didn't even know about this war until I was captured. The council chamber fell silent. Several members looked shocked that the human had dared to speak without permission. The Empress's expression remained unreadable. Bold, she finally said. You speak out of turn, yet you defend yourself clearly. Tell me, human Jiho, why should we trust your kind? We know nothing of you. Your species appears from nowhere. Your ship invading our territory, and now you claim to want to help us? What do you gain? Jiho thought carefully before answering. I gain survival, Imperial Majesty. For myself and my crew. We didn't choose to invade your territory. We were exploring, mapping new systems. We didn't know anyone lived here. But now that we are involved in your war, I want to help end it. Because the sooner it ends, the sooner we can all be safe. Safety through cooperation, the Empress mused. An interesting concept. But I have another concern, human. Commander Velrisa has claimed you as her mate. This is highly irregular. We have never before incorporated an alien species into our social structures. The Council demands we send you to our xenobiology research facilities for study, to understand what you are, what threat you might pose. He is not a threat, Velrisa said firmly, standing now, and I claim him under warrior's right. By Imperial law, my claim must be respected. Imperial law was written for Thalnari, the old counselor argued, not for aliens. This sets a dangerous precedent. The Empress raised her hand for silence. I propose a trial. Human Jiho, you have 1 week to prove that your species is worthy of equal standing within our empire. Convince the Imperial Council that humans are valuable allies, not threats or specimens to be studied. If you succeed, we will grant you and your crew citizenship and protection. If you fail, she paused meaningfully, we will proceed with the research facilities. I accept, Jiho said immediately. What choice did he have? The next week was the hardest of Jiho's life. He was given access to the Imperial Archives where he studied Thalnari history, deep into each night. Velrisa helped him, explaining contexts and meanings that the raw data couldn't convey. What Jiho discovered was fascinating and troubling. The Thalnari Empire had once been more diverse, incorporating multiple species. But 300 years ago, a faction called the Purists had risen to power, claiming that only pure Thalnari blood should hold positions of authority. The other species had been pushed out, enslaved or driven away. Since then, the empire had been purely Thalnari. And since then, Jiho realized, their military victories had become fewer. Their innovations had slowed. They had become stagnant. On the final day, Jiho stood before the Imperial Council and presented his findings. Your empire is failing because it is uniform, he said bluntly. Everyone thinks the same way. Everyone uses the same tactics. The Krillians adapt to you easily because you are predictable. But look at your history before the Purists. Look at how many victories you won when you had diverse minds working together. Different species see problems differently. They find solutions others miss. This is insulting, a council member said angrily. You call us predictable? We are proud warriors. Proud warriors who are losing, Jiho countered. I don't say this to insult you. I say this to help you. Humans think differently than Thalnari. We can see what you can't see. Together we could be stronger than either species alone. That is what I am offering. Not submission, not conquest. Partnership. The council argued among themselves for hours. The Empress listened to all sides, her expression revealing nothing. Finally, as the debate reached its peak, alarms suddenly blared. Guards rushed into the chamber, weapons drawn. Imperial Majesty, one of them shouted. We have detected an explosive device in the council wing. Everyone must evacuate immediately. Chaos erupted. Council members ran for the exits. Guards tried to maintain order. But Jiho's engineer mind was already working. An explosive meant a trigger, meant a detonator, meant a signal. Wait, he shouted. Everyone stop moving. Velrisa was beside him instantly, trusting his instinct. What is it? The bomb. It is triggered by movement or by signal. If it is signal-based, we need to find the source. He looked around frantically, his eyes searching for anything unusual. There, across the chamber, a counselor was edging toward the exit, but his hand was in his robe, holding something. Him. Jiho pointed at the old silver-furred counselor who had called him a spy. Check him. Guards moved quickly, grabbing the counselor before he could escape. They found a detonator in his hand and a communicator in his robe. Within minutes, more conspirators were identified, all members of a secret neo-purist faction that wanted to eliminate both the human contamination and the Empress who was considering accepting them. The Empress watched as her guards dragged the traitors away. Then she turned to Jiho, and for the first time she smiled. You saved my life, human. You saved this council. And you proved your worth more effectively than any presentation could. She looked at Velrisa. Commander, your claim is officially recognized. Jiho and his crew are granted citizenship and protection under Imperial law. They will serve as advisors to our military forces. Relief flooded through Jiho. Velrisa's hand found his shoulder. Squeezing gently, Thank you, Imperial Majesty, he said, bowing deeply. As they left the palace that evening, walking under 3 moons that hung in Thalnar Prime's sky, Velrisa was quieter than usual. What are you thinking? Jiho asked. I am thinking that claiming you was the best decision I ever made, she said softly, even if you still do not fully accept it. Jiho looked at her, at this alien warrior who had captured him, marked him, and protected him. Their relationship was still complicated, still undefined by either culture's standards. But maybe that was okay. Maybe they were creating something new, something neither fully Thalnari nor fully human. I am starting to, he admitted quietly. Accept it, I mean. Her ears perked up and she smiled. It was a beginning. 6 months had passed since the trial. 6 months of working alongside the Thalnari military, teaching them human tactics and learning their combat styles in return. Jiho was no longer just Velrisa's claimed mate. He was chief human advisor to the Thalnari fleet, and 37 other humans served throughout various ships as tactical consultants. The war against the Krillians had changed. Instead of losing ground, the Thalnari were holding their borders. Some systems had even been reclaimed. But the enemy was learning, adapting to the new human-influenced strategies. Jiho stood on the bridge of the flagship, studying intelligence reports on a holographic display. Beside him, Velrisa commanded her fleet with confident authority. Over the months, they had developed a comfortable rhythm. They worked together during the day, planning battles and analyzing enemy movements. At night, they returned to quarters they now officially shared, though their relationship remained physically uncomplicated. They talked, learned about each other, slowly built something neither could quite name. Velrisa still wore her claim mark proudly, and Jiho no longer minded the scent of cinnamon and steel that clung to his skin. It had become familiar, even comforting. "Commander," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving distress signals from the Kelvar system. Multiple Krillian battle groups attacking our mining colonies." Velrisa's expression hardened. "How many ships?" 43 confirmed. Possibly more. "They are committing major forces," Jiho observed, studying the tactical data. "This is not a raid. This is an invasion. Then we stop them." Velrisa turned to her crew. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. We move to defend Kelvar. Human tactical team, begin analysis of enemy formations." The journey through hyperspace took 4 hours. Jiho spent that time working with Hiren and Doyen, reviewing every piece of intelligence they had about Krillian fleet tactics. They identified patterns, predicted likely strategies, and developed counter-moves. But when they arrived at Kelvar, the situation was worse than expected. The Krillian fleet was massive. 52 ships ranging from small destroyers to multiple dreadnoughts. They had already destroyed 2 orbital stations and were bombarding the mining colonies on the surface. "We are outnumbered 3 to 1, the tactical officer reported grimly. Velrisa looked at Jiho. "What do you see?" Jiho studied the enemy formation carefully. "They are protecting something. See how the dreadnoughts form a defensive shell around that central vessel? That is not a combat configuration. That is a guarding configuration. Their command ship," Velrisa realized. "If we can destroy it, we draw them out," Jiho finished. "Make them think we are retreating. They will pursue because they have the numbers. But we lead them into an asteroid field just beyond the 4th planet. Their big ships will not maneuver well there. Then we hit them with everything we have. It was risky. It was dangerous. But it was better than a direct assault against impossible odds." Velrisa gave the orders. The Thalnari fleet engaged the enemy briefly, then began what looked like a retreat. The Krillians, sensing victory, pursued aggressively. Their formation stretched out, became less coordinated. Just as planned, the chase led into the asteroid field. "Now," Velrisa commanded. "All ships attack pattern Delta 7. Human irregular timing." The Thalnari fleet turned and struck. Fighters weaved between asteroids, striking from unexpected angles. Larger ships used the rocks as cover, emerging to fire, then disappearing again. The Krillian dreadnoughts tried to maneuver but were too large, too slow. They collided with asteroids, damaging their own hulls. The battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides exploded, filling space with debris and frozen bodies. Jiho coordinated the human tactical teams across the fleet, adjusting strategies in real time as the Krillians adapted to each move. They were winning. Slowly, carefully, they were winning. Then everything went wrong. A Krillian boarding party breached the flagship's hull. They came through a damaged section near the engine deck, moving quickly toward the bridge with military precision. "Seal all corridors," Velrisa ordered immediately. "Security teams repel the boarders." But the Krillians were fast and efficient. They fought through the security teams with cold determination. Alarms blared as they got closer to the command center. "Commander, they are trying to capture or kill you," Jiho said urgently. "This is an assassination strike. You need to evacuate the bridge." "I do not abandon my post," Velrisa said firmly, drawing her personal weapon. Around them, the bridge crew prepared for combat. The doors exploded inward. Krillian soldiers poured in, their insectoid bodies covered in black armor, their weapons firing green energy blasts. The bridge erupted into chaos. Velrisa fought with the ferocity of her species, her claws and blade cutting through enemies with lethal grace. Jiho had taken basic combat training over the past months, but he was no warrior. He stayed behind cover, trying to coordinate defensive positions while staying alive. Then he saw it. A Krillian soldier had gotten past Velrisa's guard, was raising a weapon aimed directly at her back while she fought 2 others. Jiho didn't think. He just moved. He threw himself between Velrisa and the weapon just as it fired. The energy blast hit him in the chest, and pain exploded through his body like nothing he had ever felt. He heard Velrisa scream his name, felt himself falling, and then everything went dark. He woke in the medical bay. His chest hurt terribly despite what he assumed were powerful drugs. Machines beeped around him, and through the pain, he could smell that familiar cinnamon steel scent very strongly. Velrisa sat beside his bed, holding his hand. Her eyes were red and her fur looked disheveled. She had been crying. Jiho had never seen her cry before. "You are awake," she said, her voice rough with emotion. "You foolish, brave, wonderful human. You nearly died. Did we win?" Jiho asked, his voice weak. "Yes, the Krillians retreated. We saved the colony." She squeezed his hand gently. "But I almost lost you. When you jumped in front of that weapon, when you fell, Jiho, I thought I had lost you forever. Could not let you die," he said simply. "You are too important. To your people. To the war effort, to—" He paused, struggling to find words. "To me." Velrisa's ears tilted forward, a sign of intense emotion. "When you were in surgery, when the doctor said you might not survive, I realized something. This claim I put on you, this mark, it was never just political. It was never just protection. From the beginning, even when I did not understand it myself, I wanted you. Not as a prize, not as property. As a mate, as a partner, as someone who stands beside me, not behind me." Jiho looked at her, really looked at her, this fierce alien warrior who had captured him, claimed him, and slowly taught him that love could exist between beings from different worlds. "I choose you," he said clearly, despite the pain. "No more temporary. No more maybe. I choose to accept your claim mark, Velrisa. Not because I have to. Because I want to. You are mine as much as I am yours." Tears fell from Velrisa's amber eyes again, but this time they were different. Happy tears. She leaned down carefully, mindful of his injuries, and pressed her forehead to his in a gesture he had learned was deeply intimate for Thalnari. "My mate," she whispered. "My chosen mate. Not by tradition or necessity, but by choice." "By choice," Jiho agreed. Doyen, who had been monitoring his medical equipment, cleared his throat awkwardly. "This is very touching, really, but Jiho needs rest. His chest wound is serious, and the next 48 hours are critical." Velrisa nodded but did not let go of Jiho's hand. "I will stay here. I will not leave him," and she did not. For 3 days, as Jiho fought through fever and pain, Velrisa remained at his bedside. She told him stories of Thalnari legends, read him reports from the fleet so he would not feel left behind, and simply sat with him in comfortable silence. When he was finally strong enough to stand, she helped him walk through the corridors. Other crew members stopped to bow their heads in respect. The human who had saved their commander had earned his place among them. In the privacy of their quarters, Velrisa rubbed her wrist against Jiho's neck again, refreshing the claim mark that had faded during his hospital stay. But this time, Jiho took her wrist and rubbed it gently against his own neck first, then placed it on his shoulders with his own hands. "In human culture," he said softly, "when two people choose each other, they make promises. They commit to stand together through danger and peace, through hard times and good times. I may not understand all Thalnari customs, but I understand this. You are my choice, Velrisa, today and always." Her answer was a sound between a purr and a sigh, and she pulled him into an embrace that was both fierce and gentle. Outside their window, stars stretched endlessly through space. The war was far from over. Challenges remained. But Jiho and Velrisa faced them together. Two beings from different worlds who had found in each other something neither species had words for. Something that transcended culture, biology and custom. Something that was simply and completely love. The scent mark had become a symbol now. Not of possession, but of choice. Not of claiming, but of belonging. And that made all the difference.